Nick Farkas, thank you so much for joining me right here on Cassius Morris Official.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Happy festival weekend. We are here. It is upon us. Osheaga 2025. Based on our chat last year, I already know it was a lot in the making when it comes to pulling this off yet again this year. Maybe get us up to speed about what's been going on behind the scenes leading up to this year's edition of the fest.
Usual stuff. Honestly, it's been a good year. We've got a really strong lineup. Saturday sold out. Friday, today and Sunday are looking really good as well. So we're excited. It means that people liked what we put together, which is always the hardest part is trying to get that balance right, trying to get all enough of everything to make people happy. Um, and for us, it's always we have a great site and this is our 18th year, so we're always trying to keep it exciting, trying to keep change things up, trying to improve on things that we've done in the past. So we've got some cool new surprises this year. So it's been fun to just kind of, one of our stages has moved in different direction, and just did some new stuff. Got it because I think that one of the biggest things that came out of last year was it was really, 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 really hot. So that seems to be the way our planet's going, unfortunately. And how's a festival? How do you pivot? How do you make sure? We've always prided ourselves in fan experience. So, what do we need to do to continue to make sure that people are hydrated, that they can stay cool, that we have shade spots. So, a lot of thought into that this year and trying to figure out. I think going forward for festivals, you read about it all the time. It's not going to get better for in the short term. Hopefully we can figure out something to stop climate change, but in the meantime we got to figure out innovative ways to make sure that people are comfortable, and whether it's rain or whether it's sun or whether it's humidity, whatever it is, we've got to come up with better solutions. And I think our industry, culture in general, music, entertainment has always been at the forefront of coming up with, innovative solutions to problems. So I'm sure that, that from the technology side, it's been the bounds have been, huge, like from video walls 5 years ago, 10 years ago to what they are now, sound equipment, the size of things, it's all constantly evolving. I think the next big priority for us has to be some way to figure out how do you keep people cooler and shaded, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of, I think one of the things that came out of last year, it was a really good year last year. It was a lot of fun. So how do we replicate that and try to get the same vibe going and keep people happy and excited to go from stage to stage?
Now, speaking on the
I'm
online
shaking.
reaction and the fan reaction to the lineup, I mean, I would say the lineup reaction speaks for itself since you guys are pretty much completely sold out. But on the comments in the social media, do you guys pay a lot of attention to that as a team once you release the lineup? Or is it a situation where you know people are going to be happy, just based on the ticket sales?
I mean, haters gonna hate, I guess.
That's
There's
fair.
always gonna be negative. We have to look at social media. I don't personally like to look at it. I find every single thing that's insulting to be personally insulting, and I take it personally, but I try not to. So I don't look at it a ton, but we have a team that does, and they fill us in on, I see stuff, and they just like, okay, well, this is something that people are preoccupied about, anxious about, upset about. So yeah, we look at it, and when you announce right away, almost like often that if whether people are happy or unhappy, kind of self-regulates. There's going to be negative people, and then if it's overwhelmingly positive, then it kind of shouts down the haters. But I think this year, obviously the numbers are there, and the last, this is our third year where we're seeing great results. And in an 18-year festival, you have ups and downs. We sold out for like 4 or 5 years, and we didn't sell out. And we're back. So for us, as the people booking it, how do you find that balance? And you have to listen to what people are saying, and you have to try to be on top of the trends, and you have to try to get the next Gracie Abrams and Chapel Roans, and you have to hope that you're going to have a few of those every year that are going to get people, even if they're not as excited at the start. Over time, it builds up, and you end up with. Yeah, I remember one year we had Post Malone, Dua, Billy Eilish, all like 6 o'clock, Khalid like 6, 7 o'clock in the afternoon, between
Wow.
5 and 7. So we just saw the sales on that year started out okay, but then like the last 2 months, it was insane. We've never seen anything like it. So sometimes you get that mix right, but you get it right later on in the equation. So we pay attention to it, but we try not to be, we try not to let it keep us up at night.
It sounds like it's a lot about longevity as well, though. And I think we see that reflected not only in the headliners, but also the people that you guys bring in. I think Osheaga has a really good track record of being able to identify talent, even from newcomers. So is that, that sounds like it's something that's still very much front of mind for you guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a priority. I mean, we want to book the best festival possible if we can get, if we're good enough to, people say it's luck. I don't think it's luck, but if we're good enough to pick those bands that are going to blow up in the next year or so, and things happen so fast now, it's insane. An artist can go from zero to selling out arenas in 6 months. So it's much more, it's a quicker process. So I think, we have the beauty of what we have is, I've been there the longest with Daniel Glick, who's been there since the beginning as well, but everybody else is various, ages, and we're six, and, everyone's opinion is weighted, and everybody, we fight for the artists that we want to have on there. We try to convince each other that it's a good idea. So it really is curation, and it's done by committee to a great extent. So it's never one person's vision. I think if we'd gone with what I wanted to book for the last 18 years, we wouldn't exist anymore. So I think it's really important what makes us what finding those next huge acts is very important. But I would say we're hoping, but we're hoping that the lineup is good enough from the beginning that people are going to be excited. And then if we're right and we get three or four or five or six of those, or one that really pops, then that takes things over the top.
Now, looking at the three main headliners, of course, we have The Killers, Tyler, the Creator, and Olivia Rodrigo, among many, many more. I think this is a really good and interesting mix of artists from different, not only genres, but different eras as well, spanning from current to a little further back. Maybe if you could speak to each of these headliners, maybe starting with The Killers, as to what was the major influence behind getting these acts booked.
I think for us, because we've been around for 18 years, we know we have fans that are older. We know that obviously festivals of multi-genre, multi-day festivals are not for the core audience is I think our is generally like our biggest group is between like 22 and 27, or 24 and 29, something like that. So it's a generally younger demographic. We have a lot of younger people we have more and more under 18. We have between 18 and 24, but we also want to appeal to people that are, have been there since the beginning. And the Killers, Green Day last year. We're always trying to find like a good solid rock headliner that that people will resonate, and a band like the Killers that is popular with younger fans as well. That's when you can Green Day, when you can get those bands that appeal to older people, and appeal to because of their massive presence, just people hear them, and they're grow up. My kids have grown up with Green Day, my kids have grown up with the Killers. So uh it reflects in the music that they listen to. So I think an act like the Killers, plus we had them year two, at a much earlier stage in their career. It was just a really good fit for us, and a band that we really like, and a band that I'm personally a fan of. So we saw them last year. Daniel and I went to Toronto and saw them at the amphitheater, and it was like endless hits. And I was like, this is just perfect. We got to do this. Going to Tyler. I mean, Tyler, it's like when we talk about an Osheaga artist, like Tyler just fits that, what we've always been about. Like he's just, he's creative. He's a showman. He's like, if you can captivate people, if you're one person on stage and you can captivate people for an hour and a half, 2 hours, that tells me something. Your craft, for us, the live experience is what we're always looking for. We really try to focus on bands that we've either seen before, or that we trust. The agents, the managers that tell us it's really good. But since we do shows all year long, we see a lot of bands. So an act like Tyler for us is just it's perfect, and to see the rise in his career at this stage, really amongst younger people too. We just did a show in the arena like a week and a half ago, and to see the demographic. It used to be more college age, I would say, when in the past when we've done them. Now my 15-year-old son is a massive fan, so I think his career arc has been super interesting and to watch. For him to be able to sell out an arena and then come back 10 days later and sell out, help us sell out the Saturday night is testament to his. There's something about him, like he's from the fashion to he is an artist that speaks to so many levels of what we do on the festival. So he's a perfect choice. And then Olivia, for me, was I saw her, I guess, like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. It's got to be almost now. And sometimes you just see an artist and a young artist that you realize is a career artist and is going to be around for a while and has that magic on stage where people are just drawn to her and like listening and paying attention. And she can command a stage for 15, 20,000 people at such a young age. So that, and historically we've always tried to we've always tried to give opportunities to women at the top of our lineup from because we think it's important, and our demographic and everybody that comes to the festival, we just want to represent everybody. So having a strong young woman on the festival has always been something that we like to do, from Lana to Lord to Florence and the Machine early on. Like we put a lot of artists on headline slots before many other festivals did. So for us it was a no-brainer. An artist, she crosses over to from indie rock to pop to all over the map, and that really to us speaks to our core demographic too. So she was just great artist, and we're looking forward to seeing what she's going to do on a festival stage.
One of the things I really notice about Osheaga as well is that it really does feel inclusive for everybody, but not in a way that feels stilted or forced. It just really feels like a place where everybody's welcome. Maybe if you could speak a little bit more to that, especially in today's day and age, does that become more of a focus for you guys, or do you kind of stick with the formula that's working already and just keep going?
I mean, for us, it's always been part of the DNA of the festival. I'd say it's like we wanted to be inclusive. We wanted to, from the beginning, with a Sonic Youth and Ben Harper, and we had reggae acts and we had hip hop, and we really wanted to, like, from a musical perspective, we wanted to be as varied as possible. We wanted to have, hoping that we would have longevity as a festival, hoping that we would be able to say, oh, no one would ever be able to say that's not an Osheaga artist. We really wanted to have a vast selection to choose from because you never know what's going to happen with music. So we had electronic from the beginning, everything that we were booking and we saw people listening to that made sense. Uh, we put in the festival, and I think the inclusiveness has always stemmed just from the philosophy of taking care, wanting to have a good fan experience. Being preoccupied by that means that you're trying to get that word out that we look out for each other. We expect Osheaga fans to be conscious of each other and to be looking out for each other on site the way we look out for them. Security, we have people on site that can if people are not feeling well, having potentially doing drugs and not feeling well, all of these things we look out. We're hoping that that's not going to happen, but we want to be prepared for those sorts of things. So I think that inclusiveness, special teams that for women that might not feel or might feel like something's wrong or not feeling comfortable about a situation. We have teams roaming looking for those kinds of situations because unfortunately in the world we live in, that can happen. So we really wanted to be conscious of our fans, who goes to our shows, and how do we make sure that the experience for them is inclusive without being heavy-handed. We never had quotas on, people like, oh, we're going to book 50% women on our festivals. We're going to book the best acts that are available to us at any time. It could be 55% women. It could be 35. We don't know. We're going to have a certain amount of hip hop acts. We're going to have a certain amount of electronic acts. We've never looked at it that way because, it's a very organic process. As we go, we try to figure out what we need. And, based on the strengths or weaknesses of the lineup is where we go next. So I've never really believed, because of the philosophy behind it, I've never really believed in quotas, like, because we already do that instinctively, and that's part of what we do.
Right.
So I would say that I'm glad it reflects that way because, when you see something that I think in this day and age, authenticity people see through it, especially your generation. Like people see, if someone's trying to play them, if someone's trying to bullshit them and convince them that they're something that they're not, they're going to know right away. So we've never tried to be anything that we're not. We've never tried to pretend that we're anything that we're not. We are what we are, and we live by our, by the way we present things, and hopefully people want to experience that, and hopefully they like the experience and think that it's authentic and credible. If they don't, then they got to look for something else. It's all about everyone talks about the experiential, economy and how everybody is looking for experiences. We happen to be in a field where, that's the timing's great. People want experiences, people want to experience things together. And we want to create the best environment possible for people to experience music, food, art together, without feeling, like feeling comfortable and safe. And that's really important to us.
Now, to wrap up, as we spoke about a little bit last year, I happen to know that you have a big background in punk rock. How about classic rock? I think we're seeing now a massive resurgence, not only just out in the world, actually on paper. I think rock shows have seen a 20% increase in ticket sales in the past couple of months. Streams are up. Obviously, the passing of legends like Ozzy Osbourne may have something to do with that. Is that something that we can potentially expect to see reflected in future lineups at Osheaga, maybe more classic rock or maybe even dipping into metal?
Uh, Yeah, maybe. Like I never rule anything out. I mean, the classic rock, like if a classic rock, like I would book, like Depeche Mode's been around for 40 plus years. The Cure, I would book those acts in a heartbeat. They're not classic rock, but they're classic new wave, I guess you would call it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if it fits, we'll book it. I think it's musically in line with what we want to do. We will definitely do it. And yeah, classic rock, there's a huge resurgence right now. And I think, just about I think nostalgia in general, like people seem to be nostalgic. There's a certain generation that are nostalgic for the 90s, and then another generation's that nostalgic for the 80s and the 2000s and 2010s even. As you get older and you think back to your youth and where your musical taste is created often is in your youth, your teenage years, your early 20s. So I think people have a tendency to want to go back to that era when, oh, I used to love whatever that band was from that era. For me, growing up listening to like listening to Depeche Mode, listening to a bunch of punk bands and a bunch of metal bands. That's where my roots are from. Yeah, I never say no because it's ridiculous to think that I would book there's tons of classic rock acts I would book on our festival that would make sense. But there's stuff there's no point doing something that isn't going to appeal to the audience. And when you look at an act like Green Day that's been around for 30 years, do they start classifying as classic
Yeah,
rock?
I think they
No.
could be. I've seen Foo Fighters on
Yeah,
classic rock playlists.
yeah. So Foo Fighters to me is like we've been trying to get the Foo Fighters for, we've had them booked 2 times canceled during COVID.
Uh,
We had them, Taylor, unfortunately passing, they had to cancel again. So we've had them booked 3 times. There is no artist on my hit list right now. I want to get the Foo Fighters to play our festival soon. So yeah, classic rock. Foo Fighters, yeah, they are. I guess I'm sure Dave Grohl wouldn't want to hear it, but they probably qualify as. When I think classic rock, I think Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. But
exactly.
you know,
I think that's
classic
beyond
rock is
classic now, but I'm with you.
that is more. Yeah, you're right. It is. Yeah, if we're talking the classic rock where Green Day and the Foo Fighters would fit, then yeah, 100%. I mean, the Killers are 20 plus years into their career, so where, where does that classic rock threshold start? I don't know, but
Well, that'll
we're
have to be
getting
the
there.
next interview.
That for sure. We can talk about that for sure.
I love
I
it.
could probably talk about that for a while.
Yeah, just to wrap up, Nick, who are you most excited to see this year? Final thoughts leading up to the first day of the fest.
I mean, I'm super excited to see the Killers just because, like it's a full circle, year 2 to year 18, to see an act that played, early on a smaller stage come back is pretty cool. Uh, I'm Tyler, I saw the other night with my son, and it blew me away just the, the the showmanship and like stuff that I'd never seen before on a stage. Like he was going through his record collection, pulling out a record, like he had the camera on the records,
Oh,
and
wow.
he'd pull it up, and the whole crowd would go crazy. And then he would come over, put it on the turntable, and start singing, rapping, and it was like I'm like, wow, no one. I'm like looking at people that I was with, and I'm like, you ever seen that before? And I'm like, nope, that's new. So when you say something new at this point, yeah, I'm excited for Tyler. Uh, we're doing Shabuzi, who's crossing over for our country festival in Osheaga, so that's the first time we've ever done that. So I'm curious to see how
Wow.
he's going to do. A lot of fun new stuff. What am I looking at? I love Jamie XX. That's going to be, Jamie XX to me, Chet Faker speak to what, an essence of Osheaga. Like there's that kind of pop electronic music that has always been part of our festival that people really enjoy, that jungle kind of lane. Uh, that's going to be great. I'm so excited about, like, it's hard when you look at the entire lineup. Joey
A lot to be
Valance,
excited about.
and yeah, Joey Valance and the Braves like harkens back to like early days of the Beastie Boys for me. I'm like, I think that's going to be super cool. And then, the older rock stuff, Future Islands, TV on the radio. Love this. Love Whitney. Whitney's like a huge personal favorite of mine. So there's like kind of a rock block on Saturday that I'm excited about. And then just people got to come and discover. It's so interesting when you've got 20 plus, 20 something year olds, 30 something year olds, everyone trying to turn you onto their music. There's all kinds of stuff on here that I probably wouldn't have known
Hmm.
how good it is if I hadn't listened to it in like meetings and stuff and like, hey, you guys got to check this out. We got to book them. So there's a lot of that going on.
I love it. Osheaga 2025 is going on this weekend. Make sure to stay tuned to Cassius Morris Official for coverage. Nick, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. And I hope we get you back next year.